This is an open letter to President Trump. Hello, sir. How are you? Hope everything is good. And also a note to NPR is going to come up. So here's the thing, President Trump. Here's the thing. First thing you have to do is recognize that you have an empire. Basically, humans on Earth have formed an empire. Whether you want to call it that or not, the humans on Earth of all races, because of their connectivity, because what is an empire? It's a network of people. It's a network of people, a large network of people is called an empire. And depending on, the size of it is how big the empire is, the size of the network. So humanity has formed a network on planet Earth and has formed an empire for some time now. What is in question is where is the center of the empire? Where would you like to have the center of the empire on this planet? Then the question is, and the answer is that if whoever is worthy to be the center of the empire will become the center of the empire. It's to everyone's benefit that whoever is worthy enough will be the center of the empire. And by worth, we don't mean military might. We don't mean whoever is more brutal or willing to risk it all, more brutal, more greedy. No. By worthy means that you know how to run an empire. It's not the guys with the biggest military, they can stay at the center of the empire, but that empire is going to be very short-lived. You see, since, I'm very close to the current center of the empire, I like it to remain center of the empire, It's very nice. But so I want you to keep the center of the empire. But what you have to understand is you have to be worthy. What it means by worthy is that whether you do understand the concept that an empire is like a family. If you're a worthy father, you will have a successful family. If you're not a worthy father, you will not have a successful family. So the question is, how do you run a successful family? If you know how to bring about a successful family, you can run a very successful empire on your planet for a very long time. If not, another empire will form. It's just the center is going to be somewhere else. Maybe after a nuclear holocaust. Whatever, still empires will form, and depending on how well they run, they last. You have empires in China that lasted thousands of years. In Middle East, empires lasted couple of thousand years. But you have to understand that you're copying from the British, who are so brutal and so greedy and so shitty at running an empire that their empire lasted a couple of hundred years. You see, you shouldn't be copying from the British. Maybe you should be copying from others. First learning about others. First learn about anybody else besides Shakespeare. And then maybe you learn from others. Not copy others, but learn from others. Here's my point. The main question becomes, okay, how do you run a successful family? Okay. This is the part that also applies to NPR. This is a note to NPR as well. So the first thing about running a good family is to listen. You have to listen to everybody in the family. or else no matter what you do, you're not going to have a successful family. You know, you as a father, as a center of the empire, in order to run a functional family, you have to want to and be able to and want to, most importantly, and see the need to listen as the, you know, where as the people who currently occupy the center of the empire. You should have listened up to now. Okay, you didn't, now you have to listen. And the idea is when I say listen, it's sort of like they're actually passed a law, I believe recently, that the numbers that the Palestinians give us in terms of how many Palestinians have been killed during this operation of ours, those numbers should not be listened to, should not be mentioned in government documents. That's sort of like how better can you know, no one can define this matter of not listening than passing such a law that, or such amendment, or such a memorandum that, you know, the numbers that the Palestinians give us should not be repeated. We should ask Israelis how many Palestinians they think they have killed. Well, Israelis are going to say we killed maybe 1,000. Salute. So the exact opposite of listening is what has been being carried out. So you can't run a good family if you don't listen to people, to the members of your family. And you really can't have favorites in a family, or the family will become dysfunctional. I'm saying this because I'm saying this as a member of a family who had a favorite child, and yes, the family was very dysfunctional. Because imagine this, that you come home and you see something is broken, the kids broke something, but every time you listen to one of the kids as who's at fault. You have multiple kids, but you only listen to one of them. Just like you can't have, and what will happen? That one will always say somebody else did it, even when those times that one has been responsible for a misdeed. Of course, that he or she is never going to say it was me, even if they, you know, they're good. Eventually, they will become bad. Even if at the beginning they admit to wrongdoing, eventually they feel special. I mean, how much more special can you get than people of Israel, who say, you know, we are the chosen one, and you guys agree we are the chosen one. Everybody agrees we are the chosen one. That's a special kid. And you're like, you know, you have a favorite kid, a special kid, and oh, we're only going to listen to this kid in the family. And no, everybody else, shut up. So my point is this. And after that kid, there's another favorite, the British. They're a close favorite kid, close second behind the Israelis. Then the French and the Germans. Yes, we like to hear what you have to say. But does anybody listen to Nigeria? Does anybody wants to listen to Zimbabwe? Nope. No, in fact, Zimbabwe, you're one of the bad kids. You shut up. You have no right to talk. Do you see where I'm going with this? Just like it doesn't work in a family to run a family, it doesn't doesn't help to run a peaceful empire if you don't listen to kids. You decide that, no, I'm not going to listen to, I'm not going to even, you know, I'm not even going to accept your casualty numbers. Fuck you. You can't run a successful family if you don't listen to all the members. Here's the thing, NPR, for example, this is what I'm saying, that NPR only provides Israelis perspective and the British, especially because NPR rebroadcasts international news from the British perspective. By rebroadcasting BBC, NPR in North America is basically rebroadcasting the British perspective. The British is not the right perspective. The British is one perspective of looking at international matters. Here's the thing, NPR. What can you do better is that don't just every day rebroadcast the British version of international news, international events. The idea that who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Why we always have to hear from the British as who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Has everybody agreed that the British are the good guys? So whatever they determine that who's the bad guy and who's the good guys, we got to go with that because I mean the British are holy, right? They're the holy. They're not. In fact, British are one of the most brutal, unworthy, greedy nations, races on this planet. Why would you want to listen to the British? Okay, you want to listen to the British, NPR? There are 5 members of the Security Council. As the center of the empire, you want to listen to all perspectives from 4 corners of the empire. That's how you listen as a family, as a father. You listen to all the children in order to make reasonable decisions. You don't listen to just the British and, fuck the Russians and the Chinese and anybody who's not British, fuck them. We don't want to listen to them. It's like a father coming to the house and wanting to only every day, just wanting to hear from one of the kids. How was her day or his day, and how was his lunch, and how was his dinner, and how much money he wants, and all the other children are neglected. Fuck them. You think you're going to have a successful family if you behave in such a way? Of course not. So how do you think you're going to have a successful empire if you don't want to hear from some parts of the empire? Okay. So here is a suggestion for NPR. 5 days a week, you broadcast international news in English from the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. Instead of just rebroadcasting the British perspective, you start from Monday, you go by alphabetical order. Monday, the British, we rebroadcast BBC International News. Tuesday, we rebroadcast China's English international news. Wednesday we rebroadcast the Russians, and Friday we rebroadcast US international news for the whole empire, because everybody can access NPR on the internet. So you know how much more listeners you're going to have? Sort of like, this is our version, this is the British version of international news, this is the French version of the international news, this is the Russian version of international news, and this is the Chinese version of international news. That's called listening. The first thing any father, any center of the empire has to do if they want to run a successful empire, make a successful family. Listening. You're not doing that. You only listen to yours. It's like me speaking with my penis. You're listening to yourself. The British, talking to the British back and forth is like I'm talking to my penis. We agree. Me and my penis have 99% agreement on everything. It doesn't. You can't. You can run a one person like that by talking to yourself or, your penis, the British, but that doesn't. You can't run a family like that. A father who only wants to listen to himself screws up the whole family. Who wants to? Here's the thing you have to understand, Mr. Trump and NPR. Everybody wants to be a part of a family. It said, you're social animals, and family being the first social network, the first socially acceptable empire, smallest kind of empire. everybody wants to be a part of a family. But nobody really wants to be a part of an abusive family. You see, with an abusive father, with an abusive center of the empire. Nobody wants to be part of that empire. When the center of the empire becomes abusive. Why the center of the empire becomes abusive? First thing is because center of the empire doesn't want to listen. Whatever I say goes. That's called rules-based. Empire becomes, the family becomes dysfunctional because, children feel that they're not being heard by the dickhead, dad. So what happens when I say center of empire remains, but the center of empire changes? Just like a family gets a divorce. The mother gets divorced from the dad who's overbearing, abusive. The mother gets divorced, takes the children, and marries another man who is worthy, and his first quality as a good father, as a worthy father, is that he listens. Russians are almost listening to everybody. Uncle Sam is like, no. Uncle Sam's managers are like, no, we are not talking to you. You either over there, sanctions, over there, embargo, we don't want to talk to you. Basically, Uncle Sam's managers at this point are speaking only on the speaking terms with the Israelis, the British, Palau and Nauru, and Micronesia. They're on speaking terms. When you're on speaking terms with only these few countries, and when you have to veto the 99% majority against the 99% of majority at the United Nations, when you have to use the veto against the 99%, that is the ultimate picture of you not listening. The center of the empire, the abusive dad, is not listening. Vetoes something that 99% agree. US vetoes, US managers veto. That's the ultimate sign that the dad is not listening, or is listening to one kid. That favorite kid, special kid, is called Israel. Dad listens only to Israel. How fucking dysfunctional do you think that family is going to be if dad only listens to one of the kids? Dad has 197 kids, only listens to one. Do you see how dysfunctional that one has become? No regards for human life whatsoever. That's the result of being considered the favorite. That happens in real life. That happens in family. If a child is designated as favorite, that family is dead from then on, because it's going to be dysfunctional. Some are going to be neglected because this one is favorite, living under the same roof with somebody who's a favorite and a bunch who are neglected. That's hell to pay. That's a disaster household. And this is a disaster empire. So listen, NPR, 5 days a week, you rebroadcast international news from 5 corners of the empire. The Russians feel they're heard. Yes, their government produces that news, just like your government produces this news. If you say anything really, destructive, again, they call it against national security. Just like, you cannot say anything that the government thinks is national security. You can't talk about it, or you can't criticize it. A measure, you cannot, NPR cannot criticize a measure which is considered a matter of national security, or NPR goes out off air, or whoever thought of that thing to say goes off air. Basically, you don't even want to listen to yourself at this point. No. Even, on Wednesday. I have a favorite child, and I only listen to her on Wednesdays. My point is this, that to run a successful family, NPR has to start really, instead of interpreting shit, really actually rebroadcast their international news in English. They all have English version of their international news. NPR should all start broadcasting that. Every day of the week, a different country within the Security Council. And work towards maybe on the second year, the next year, NPR starts rebroadcasting all the 15 members of the Security Council for 15 days of the month. And then I believe there are 15 members in security. There are 5 permanent members and there are 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council. So I think maybe they make 15. That makes it like 15 days, and then you start over the 15 days. So for example, someday you hear Algeria's English language international news, what the Algerian government, Algerian people, Algerian upper echelon of an Algerian society, their perspective with regards to the international news, you will hear. You will hear the perspective of the upper echelon of the Algerian country on Monday on a Monday in United States, on NPR. So everybody within the empire can hear it through the internet, and especially people at the center, at the heart of the empire, the father can hear Algerians' perspective. What's wrong with that? Why do we always have to hear the British perspective of international news? What concerns them, who they think is a bad guy, who they think is a good guy, what is on their mind, what is on top of their concern. Why not Zimbabwe's English language international news for half an hour when Zimbabwe's time is in Security Council of United Nations? Here's the thing, folks, you have to accept you have an empire, and you have to accept your responsibilities as the father of this empire. The first responsibility is everybody has to be heard. NPR is not doing that. Even in Uncle Sam's land, NPR doesn't want to hear everybody. Only these people who we believe they're progressive. They're so progressive, they've gone out of sync. Anyway, my point is this, that these progressive people are having all these wars. How is war and progress are a match? How can you call yourself, we are NPR, we are progressive, but we have to go abuse some of our children? Well, during the past 50 years, you have abused the Iraqis twice now. You haven't abused the British at all during the past 50 years. You haven't abused the French, the Germans, but you have abused the Iraqis as a child of this empire. You have abused them twice. And every time was a wrongful abuse. Yes, Iraqis need to be combined with Kuwait because Kuwait is blocking Iraq from having access to warm waters. That was the first war about. The second war is about something somebody else did from somewhere else, and suddenly Iraq got invaded. Twice abusing the same child, twice during 50 years on the life of the fucking planet. We don't want to hear about Iraqis, we want to abuse them. You think you're going to have a functioning empire if you keep abusing your members? How can you imagine you can have a functional family if you have favorites and then you have those kids that you like to really abuse? Do you think you can have a stable 1,000-year empire like this? Not having a sense of fairness, being abusive? My point is this, NPR, you can start with giving a voice to all the members of Security Council on your international news, and not just the British. There is no right and wrong. There are different perspectives. There is no good and bad. There is no right and wrong. There are different perspectives about the same situation. To reach the better solution, the best solution can only be reached if you hear of everybody. If you hear all the children and hear their, why do you understand this in terms of your family but you don't understand this in terms of the empire? You understand in terms of family you cannot have favorites really. You cannot have those kids that you like to abuse a lot. You know that if you do this, you're not going to have a successful family. But you don't understand this in terms of an empire. So first, listening. NPR can do this, give a voice to the four corners of the empire, and Mr. Trump can have, ambassadors that really actually like the locals, speak the natives' language, and that can have direct access to Mr. Trump to talk Turkey. Second thing you do in a family, as a leader of the family, you want to consider yourself as the center of the empire, as a leader of the family. Okay. Accommodate. You listen to people, members of your family, and you accommodate them as best you can. And attacking them, sanctioning them, sending them to their room without dinner every night. You're sending some of your members of this empire that you claim to own, to have the right to control. You want to be the daddy of the empire. You can't send your kids without dinner. Certain kids go to bed without dinner every night. You think you're going to have a functional family if you have certain kids in your family that you're responsible for, but you like to send them to bed hungry every night. Okay. And then, one day you beat them to an inch of their life, like Libya. Has Libya been was a success in terms of displacement of people, immigration of Africans to Europe, poverty, or all of that? This is Libya. This is one of your children as an empire, and you sanction them for a long time, send them to bed without dinner, like a child without dinner, every night for 20 years, and then you beat the shit out of them. What good do you think is going to come out of this child? You can't run a successful 2,000-year empire if you treat your children like this. And a sick child over there who was under sanction for 20 years and then beat them to the inch of their life, as in case of Libya, that's not going to be healthy for their other siblings who have to deal with that child. The whole family becomes dysfunctional because a lot of other siblings have to deal with that child that you just beat up. Like south of Europe. Overrun with the people from Africa. You try to accommodate them, members of this family, as best you can. Invading them, sanctioning them, killing them, bombing them is not what you can consider accommodation. Three, you cannot be overbearing as a father. Basically, you cannot make all the decisions for your children. All the decisions, sort of like, no, you can't make any decisions. I make the decisions for you. You certainly, you would think it's a crazy thing to, for example, if I tell you that this guy has a child and his son is like 25 years old, and still his father demands the son's paycheck every time the son gets a paycheck, the father grabs the paycheck and says, you don't know how to spend this money, I take this money and you tell me your needs, then I give you, pocket money. Do you see how degrading this is for the child, that their paycheck is taken away by the father every day, every time? It's sort of, no, you can't make decisions. You pay me your paycheck and I make decisions of what should be purchased. That's not healthy for the children. The parents being so overbearing, financially, psychologically, in every way. I mean, conducting a overthrow of a government in Syria recently, and then sending pallets of cash in order to create some kind of stability. At first we overthrow the government and destroy their, infrastructure, destroy their centers of power where they kept order going. We destroy all that, then we send them a couple of pallets of cash. That should fix it. It's sort of, God forbid, imagine a father who rapes his own daughter, and then after he's done, throws a couple of $100 bills on the mattress and leaves. That's the kind of tough love that, in Washington, that's the kind of tough love in Washington, these people who are supposed to be in charge of the empire are advocating for. It's like, fuck them, and then throw a couple of $100 bills on it and it will fix itself. It just doesn't make sense. When you destroy their order like this, you encourage revolutions and you encourage these people who are, who want to break the order. They're hoping to make a different order, but between breaking order and making a different order is going to be a long shit show, as in case of Libya. We just see Iraq, Afghanistan. You can't, and then these progressives come out and say, yeah, Afghanistan, why aren't the women walking around in miniskirts? Because you just raped them twice in the past 50 years. Here's the things, folks. You cannot be overbearing. You cannot be abusive towards your children, because the whole family is going to become dysfunctional. And when you do all of this, you think the cure to all of this, the cure to not listening and not accommodating and being overbearing, you think the cure to all of this is brutality. If we beat them with a big stick, and if even we don't beat them, let's say we carry around a really big stick, then we can have a successful empire or a successful family. How many families do you know, Mr. Trump, that the father has been able to create a successful family by brute force? How many do you know? Do fathers who beat up one of their children every day, let's say you have lots of children, but you're addicted to beating at least one of them a day, do you think a father who creates such a terror in his house, an empire, a center of empire that creates such a terrifying environment in the empire, because all the children are scared of the daddy's big dick, you think that family is going to be successful? You think that's, and when I say successful, it means when empires are unsuccessful, the center of empire changes. the center of empire moves to somewhere that is listens more, accommodates better, is not overbearing, and it doesn't show brutality towards the members of the empire. I mean, this is it. When I say the British are brutes, because the British never wanted to listen to the Indians, never didn't want to accommodate Indians, were overbearing to Indians. What does overbearing means? Means I keep 100% of the profits. This is when I say overbearing, when the center of the empire becomes overbearing, is just like in the terms of a family. If the father in the household collects all the children's paycheck and says, okay, your paychecks belong to me and I give you pocket money if you can justify what you need the pocket money for. This is an overbearing father. In case of empires, overbearing is when you tell the Iraqi people that when you sell your oil, you don't get your payments. The check for the oil that you sell comes to New York at the center of the empire, and from there we will give you pocket money if you can come and justify what do you need that money for. That's apparently what the Iraqis have been doing for the past 20-30 years, however long, that since Uncle Sam's empire took over Iraq. Overbearing. You forcefully took over them. That's beating a child to death, to the inch of their life, killing so many 4 or 5 million Iraqis. You beat the child, and now you're collecting his paycheck. How long do you think that this empire will last? The British Empire, again, I have to repeat because apparently very few people get it. British Empire lasted for a couple of 100 years because they didn't listen, they were overbearing, they were brutal, and they thought that we will not listen, will abuse you, we are overbearing, we collect all your paychecks, we collect all the profits in London, and if you protest, we brutalize you. Well, during 200 years of British rule in India, they killed 200 million Indians. 200 years, 200 million. A million a year. That's the British trying to keep a family together, the empire together, with brute force. Here's the thing, and why did they do that? Why this is used is just for money. Sir, you do understand that as a father you will be considered overbearing, and the society will consider you as unacceptable for you to collect your children's paycheck. So you have to understand that the same works with regards to an empire. It's the same principles. That means you have to accept that your children are going to keep their paycheck, but you have an empire, you have a family. That doesn't mean you make all the decisions solo. That doesn't mean you beat your kids. That doesn't mean you have to collect all the money, all the profits, all the time. And collecting all this money for yourself is not healthy for you either. Imagine a father who collects all the paychecks and and uses a lot of that money to make instruments to torture and kill his kids, in terms of war that the empire does, and then go spend some of that money in torture instrument, killing instrument, guns, and then spend a lot of that money in luxury and drugs and rock and roll. A lot of overspending on things that are really not important in life, and not only they're not important, maybe destructive, such as drugs or other chemicals that a lot of wealth brings about. Having a lot of wealth brings about. So my point is that this accumulation of wealth at the center of the empire is not even good for the center of the empire. Because again becomes stratifies even the center of the empire in terms of economic classes. They separate, canyons form between the economic class that benefits from the empire building, this brute force that the empire is using, and the classes, the other lower classes, who really don't have any benefit, don't benefit at all from expansion of the empire. Imagine the difference between the economic class of a major shareholder of an arms manufacturer and a plumber in Washington DC. That major shareholder of an arms manufacturer, the more wars this empire is involved in, the more he is wealthy, and he separates himself from a plumber who doesn't benefit at all from any expansionist wars of the empire. He's still a plumber, he's still making the same money, but this guy suddenly, his wealth took off because he was involved with some aspect of that benefited from the expansion of the empire by force. Again, here's the thing, sir. You don't have to force people to be part of your family, part of your empire. Just like you really don't have to use force to be part of the family. Even if you look at it as a mafia family, nobody forces anybody to join the mafia. There is no force involved. Yes, they will not be happy if you try to leave a mafia family, because you have been witness to a lot of bad shit, and the rest of the family wants to sleep well at night, so they don't like it if you leave the family, because you're a witness to a lot of shit. But going into the mafia family, it's voluntarily. Just like everybody wants to be part of a family, whether a blood family or a mafia family. More or less everybody wants to be a part of a family, even if it is a mafia family, because everybody benefits from more protection, more connection, more loyalty. Everybody benefits within the family. So everybody wants to be part of the empire. But so brutality is not necessary. But the idea is that you're not looking at it as a family, which you should, and you forcefully you force yourself upon your daughter in Iraq. Your metaphorical daughter is, as an empire, you force yourself upon Iraqis. No, you have to have us, and then you have to hand over your paycheck. Let me put it this way again. Brutal empires which want the most, which are greedy, like the British Empire, want the most and want to collect everybody's paycheck and want to take 100% of the profits. These empires don't last long. For the same reason, a dysfunctional family doesn't last long. Eventually, the wife and the members of the family agree to dump the husband and find another man, form another family with a more worthy man of the house. And you're not worthier. Many of these people, what you call politicians, think that listening to the members of the empire, accommodating members of the empire, it's a sign of weakness. If we are not overbearing to the members of the empire, it's a sign of weakness. We have to be overbearing. We shouldn't listen to them. We should not accommodate them, and we should grab their paycheck as soon as we can. And if they protest, we put them down with brutality. If we don't do that, it's a sign of weakness. Can you imagine somebody tell a father that if you don't beat your children, if you listen to them, if you don't accommodate them, and if you steal their paychecks, if you don't do these things, you're a weak father. Can you imagine? The guy says, no, I'm not doing any of these, and I'm not a weak father. I'm a sane father. I listen to my kids because I'm a sane father. I try to accommodate my kids because I'm a sane father. I don't want to collect all their paychecks because I'm a sane father. I will, collect their rent if they're old enough. I will collect the rent from them, and the rent is, 1% of your paycheck, 5% of your paycheck. That's rent. Not, I'm going to collect all of your paycheck, the whole paycheck, and then I give you some pocket money. That's how these people are looking at the rest of the empire. It's like, if we are not collecting the paycheck of the Venezuelan oil, we should be, or else it's a sign of weakness. Why? Folks, brutal empires don't last long. Accommodating empires do. Empires which listen to the four corners do. Empires which are not overbearing collect 1% of your paycheck as your rent, and you keep 99% of the paycheck. These empires last. If Afghanistan, if Iraq, if Syria, if you went to Syria, confiscated their oil, so they don't have them, that's basically confiscating Syria's paycheck. It's a poor country which had a couple of oil wells. You confiscate their oil wells and give that money, or compensate the oil, but you finance some people who have some other ideas with regards to the tribe, and you finance them to overthrow that. But these guys who are overthrowing that order, they're not very orderly themselves, and they're not, before they can put a government together, 20 years has passed. Because when you break an order, it's like a country going through civil war. You promote civil war in countries that don't hand over their paycheck. You don't feel you should listen to, you don't want to accommodate. Then you start abusing them, taking their paycheck, taking Syria's oil, abuse them, beat them up, and you think Syria is going to make a good child of the empire? Syria is going to have a good future. Because you just you just screwed it and sent it home hungry, raped it, and now you're sending them a couple of pallets of cash as if that's going to fix the problem, the psychological problem and the physical problem as a result of all those years of abuse that Syria has taken, or Iraq had taken, or Libya had taken, or Iran had taken, or Afghanistan, as a compensation for all those years of neglect and abuse. We're gonna send you a couple of pallets of cash to the Sane Society. Here's the thing, sir. Again, you have to look at an empire if you want to keep it, which I hope you do. Empires are good. Order is good. But in order to keep an empire, you have to look at it as a family. If you don't, it's not going to last much longer for you. You can try to use brutality to keep the empire together, but it hasn't worked in the past. And you're either going to lose it or you're going to, send planet Earth into a nuclear holocaust because you didn't understand that an empire is a family. You wanted all of it because of greed. The Uncle Sam's corporations wanted all of it, didn't care to listen or accommodate anybody, wanted to keep all of the paychecks from all across the planet, and you lose the whole planet. Or at the very least, if you don't get that you're in charge of a family, at the very least the family is going to divorce you and find a new father. Center of the empire is going to change, move. You be a responsible father, be a responsible empire, don't expect everybody's paycheck, and everybody wants to, join the empire. People run away from the family only when the family becomes abusive. You have been abusive since you started the empire about 100 years ago. I mean, you understand that if you're abusive even to your states want to break away and become independent or form their own union. If you want to keep the shit together, you can't be abusive. And you can't use brutality as a way to keep the shit together. Because the system is not going to be stable. A system that is held together by force is not a stable system. Because it's not stable, because the moment that force is lifted for some reason or other, because that application of that force has become too expensive, for example, because the empire has widened too much, application of force has become too expensive, can't pay for it, the force is lifted, the family is done. Exactly what happened to the British Empire. They were holding it together by brute force. You really don't have to do that. If you're less greedy and don't want the whole paycheck, people's full paycheck, your children's full paycheck, people pay a little to be part of a family. They don't want to be abused, but they will pay a little to be part of a family. You will have a big empire if you treat everybody with respect and expect just a little of their paycheck. But that requires the people who are running the empire to be modest and humble and have you seen moral? Have you seen moral and humble people around Washington a lot? I'm sorry. If you're worthy, you will keep your empire. Humble people, wise people, modest people are worthy. We all agree.